almost feel like my life has two epics in it, in that BJ and AJ, before jiu-jitsu and after jiu-jitsu. I'm not the same person. It allowed me to have a sense of self-esteem. That's the biggest thing. I went through kind of a roller coaster. What happened was I was bouncing around a lot as a student. It was hard to find a consistent home, so then I started training with Steve Cardi and Rob Kahn, really very closely with Rob. I made a strong connection with him. And then he moved to Tampa, a little less than 2 years into my training with him. And so then I was traveling all over. I was training with one of his students in the Bronx for a while. I was going to open mats in Danbury. But then I was also having to work. I was working at grocery stores and fast food places, and it was hard. And so then Rob gave me the idea, well, why don't you teach? When I first opened my school, it shouldn't even really be called a school. I was just looking at it as an alternative to a part-time job. And so then what happened was I started getting better. I started getting a couple more students, and then I had my first professional fight. First, I just wanted to have the fight to see if I could do it. Professional fighting was the closest I could come to really testing myself. I did it, and I won. I won fairly easily. My first handful of fights, you could watch them while you're making microwave popcorn. I said, okay, well, let me try my hand at UFC, see if I can make it there, and it seemed like that would be my route. What happened was I didn't realize that being a fighter and winning medals is the least important part of being a business owner. I went back to college, focused on getting my degree, but then I was just becoming disheartened with that route too. I don't know what I want to do. I know I want to teach jiu-jitsu, but I'm not making any money with that. I was completely broke. And then I started going to business seminars. And then I just went all in on it. And I said, I'm gonna stop competing. I'm gonna stop doing everything. I'm gonna learn how to run a business. And I turned everything around. I expanded my school 3 times since then. And now I'm able to do what I love. Best part of jiu-jitsu is the fact that you're terrible at it when you start. What I mean by that is I was uncoordinated, I was flat-footed, I was the last kid picked for dodgeball. When I started, I was awful. I couldn't remember, I couldn't pronounce omoplata. That was impossible for me. I would get beat up and down the mat. I felt like I couldn't tie my belt, and that was perfect. I was terrible at jiu-jitsu. I was the worst at jiu-jitsu. Smallest, slowest, would get tapped the most. And I say, man, this is something that gives me a sense of pride, a sense of self-esteem, that I have accomplished something. I took something that I was the worst at, and I became one of the best at it. And that affects everything. That gives you an idea that you can conquer whatever's in front of you. I don't think I was meant to do this. I was meant for something else. But one thing that I've decided is that I'm going to make my own destiny. And that's kind of what jiu-jitsu has afforded me the opportunity to do. I never enjoyed competing. I can count on one hand the number of matches that I felt good winning. But when one of my students would do well, not necessarily just with winning a tournament, but well with anything. You know, I had someone come to me and say, hey, you know what? I was at the 7-Eleven in Poughkeepsie, and some guy came up to me. He was getting in my face. I told him to move away. He was trying to take my wallet. I hit him, and he fell down, and I ran away. I got home safe. That gave me a sensation of immense pleasure. I realized that, hey, this is where my heart is. This is where I feel good. Fighting is just something I felt an obligation to do to prove myself. So I always wanted to make that transition, and just my fighting career not working out gave me the green light and kind of made it the only option. I have things I look in the mirror and say before I teach, that this is going to be the best class I've ever taught, that I believe in my students and they're all future black belts. I say that to myself, either in my head or out loud before every single class. Teach kids. Nothing bothers me more than a black belt that pawns his young aspiring students off to just a blue belt. This is what you do. Some competitor here, teach the kids. I really don't care. There's no oversight. There's no life lessons. We talk about jiu-jitsu changed my life, and we have these people tell you that there is no one that you can make a greater impact on as an individual than a child. I want to make sure that I'm making the difference in the life of a child. And that's something that far too many people ignore. And why don't they do it? Because their instructor didn't do it. Oh, I don't like kids. You don't like kids? Get a new profession. Because martial arts is something that's going to really affect kids, and that's what's going to really put them on a positive path. The thing I'm most proud of was, I remember I was doing an online search. I was trying to find an article someone had written about one of our students that competed in Thailand. But what I stumbled across was a student of mine who had a blog. I found some really concerning posts, things that were talking about how they weren't satisfied with their life, they were very angry, they were very discontent. I was reading the thoughts of someone that was badly depressed. What happened was, there's a post where they started jiu-jitsu. And slowly, the posts started evening out. There started being a little less negativity, a little more positivity. And the further they went in jiu-jitsu, the more it became wholly positive. And then there was a part where they get their blue belt. The first time I could hold my head up high was the title of the blog. And then when the person started teaching, they said, like, this is my life now. And I said, wow. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I broke down, I was crying. This is what this is about. I got to be a part of this person's life changing. It's not just about triangle chokes and high kicks. It's literally about finding a new path in life. And so the fact that I had whatever part I had in that, you know, something that I take extreme pride in.